I call the member for Macarthur.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Mr Deputy Speaker, I rise to speak on this matter of public importance today because I hold great concern for the people of Macarthur who are struggling to make ends meet. I am concerned, but not surprised, that this week's budget has failed to address the cost of living pressures for all Australians. Since elected, this Labor government has done nothing to ease the cost of living pressures for families in my electorate and around the nation. Since 2007, the cost of electricity has increased by 93.8%. Water and sewerage has increased by 63.1%. Gas has increased by 61.8%. Medical and health services up by 40.9%. And rents have increased by 30.2%. Certainly not a track record the government would be proud of. The rising cost of living has made a huge impact on the quality of life for many families in Macarthur. To put it simply, they have had enough. The people of Macarthur are hard-working, honest people who want nothing but the best for their children and the future generations of this country. More than 70% of the workers in my electorate commute out of the area to work every day so they can earn a decent wage to compete with the rising cost of living. They are working hard to pay off their mortgage and balance the family budget. They are trying to decrease their own debt and reduce their credit limits. So you can imagine how frustrating it would be to see their own government's wasteful spending result in almost $300 billion of debt, reaching national debt record interest payments of $7.8 billion per year. That's almost $50 million per day in borrowings. The government doesn't even have a revenue problem. The government doesn't have a revenue problem, Mr Deputy Speaker. It definitely has a spending problem. Recently, thousands of people across Macarthur raised their concerns with me about the rising cost of living through Macarthur's biggest survey. More than 90% of the residents who took part in the survey said the cost of living was too high. Many families in my electorate are struggling to make ends meet, Mr Deputy Speaker. I recently met a lovely family in Rosemeadow who said the rising cost of living meant their children were missing out on some of the things that they once took for granted. Mum and Dad are both working, one income covers a mortgage and the other income barely covers the electricity bills, water bills, grocery bills and the council rates, all of which have gone up thanks to this Labor government's record debt and their toxic carbon tax. This means there is no money left for the children in this family to take part in after-school activities or sport teams with their friends because there is simply not enough money left in the family budget. Since when did joining a local sports team become a luxury expense? These parents want nothing more than the best for their children, but said there are times they wonder if working hard to pay off a mortgage and refusing to depend on government handouts is the right thing to do. They want their children to have a bright future but are struggling to stay on top of the bills and keep food on the table because of a rising cost of living. It is obvious to me, since this Labor government began its wasteful spending, new taxes and broken promises, the quality of life for many people in my electorate has diminished. Labor's carbon tax only adds insult to injury to household budgets that are already under pressure. The carbon tax was met with great contempt by the people of Macarthur. The increased costs for small businesses and the rise in electricity prices for local residents mean they are struggling to make ends meet. I've shaken the freezing cold hands of pensioners in their homes who are too scared to turn on their heaters in the fear for their rising electricity prices. One lady told me she's cut back on eating to one meal a day and showering every second day because she's fearful of her rising electricity bills. Fear, insecurity and instability are all caused by this reckless government. The message I'm hearing in Macarthur is very clear. Families and small businesses are desperate for a government that they can have confidence in. Families are struggling with the rising cost of living and businesses are closing down under the uncertainty of this Labor government. The two most frequent issues raised with me by residents in Macarthur have been the rising cost of living and this government's debt. Mr Deputy Speaker, the decent, hard-working people in my electorate are really doing it tough and the government is not paying attention. A bit like the member for Shortland. The lights are on but nobody's home. Not only are they struggling with the cost of living, but she interjects all the time. The pressures, not are they only struggling with the cost of living pressures, but they also see no relief in this week's budget from a government that has lost touch with everyday Australians. On Tuesday night, Macarthur residents were let down by another bad budget. Labor has delivered a fifth record deficit in 5 years, yet they claim they'll return the budget to surplus in 3 years. How can you trust them? The people of Macarthur and the people of Australia aren't easily fooled, Mr Deputy Speaker. They've been let down by too many times before and see that this Labor government has no credible path back to surplus. Revenue in 2013-14 is projected to be $80 billion higher than at the end of the Howard government. Yet with this budget, spending in 2013-14 will be $120 billion higher also than it was at the end of the Howard government. Over the past 5 years, the government has spent $192 billion more than it has raised. Expenditure as a percentage of GDP has been higher every year under a Labor government compared to the last years of the Howard government. Labor's interest payments are now at almost $20 million a day. The budget delivers more than $25 billion in higher taxes over the next 4 years. And to rub salt into the wounds of all Australians, this budget includes an extra $100 million spending on government advertising. How can this government justify $100 million on advertising when pensioners in my electorate can't afford to heat their homes or have a shower every day? This week's budget has certainly failed to address the rising cost of living. In fact, it's only made it worse. Families will be worse off with the government's announcement to extend the pause on the income thresholds for family payments and the family tax benefit supplement payments until 2017. This decision will impact upon 1.5 million families who receive Family Tax Benefit A and 1.3 million families who receive Family Tax Benefit B, as these supplement payments fail to keep pace with the rising costs of living. The Labor government's decision to scrap these planned family tax benefits will impact upon 12,261 families in Macarthur. This benefit would have provided up to $300 to eligible families with one child and up to $600 to families with 2 or more children. What happened to the government's promise to spread the benefits of the boom? Just another broken promise, another letdown for the people of Macarthur. Labor also promised company tax for businesses at the last election, then took them away last year, saying the money would go towards family payments instead. Now, those family payments have been taken away before they were meant to start. Families across the country are literally paying the price of this government's reckless spending and waste. I can tell you now, more than 12,000 Macarthur families have taken a clear message away from this decision that Labor can't be trusted to keep its promises or honour its word. Labor promised no carbon tax, a budget surplus, 500,000 new jobs and increased family payments, and every one of these promises has been broken. The people of Macarthur deserve a government that sticks to its word. They deserve a government that will focus on sensible economic management with a strong plan to pay back the debt and return to balanced budgets. Labor's latest attacks on family support payments and household budgets have come at a time when families can least afford it. Macarthur families will also suffer as a result of this budget's broken promise on childcare. At a time when childcare costs are increasing, Labor has broken its promise that the indexation of the childcare rebate would recommence in 2014, another broken promise. The increase to the Medicare level will also hit family budgets for the average Australian family earning $70,000 a year, $350 a year worse off. The record debt and rising cost of living for Australian families is also the result of the long list of incompetent policies that this government has blundered in its short time in office. We've had the border protection fiasco, pink bats, set-top boxes, the BER school halls debacle. They raised clash for clunkers and dropped it like a hot potato, and the carbon tax promise. All of these failed policies have come at a huge cost to taxpayers across Australia and have contributed to the massive debt that we find ourselves in. And it's not just families and businesses struggling with a rising cost of living, but charities in my electorate are also feeling the pinch. Charities and not-for-profit agencies have to spend much of their hard-earned money on rising bills rather than those doing it tough in the community. What we now have in this country is an urgent need for the government that is focused on the needs of all Australians. I stand here today as a proud member of the Coalition because I know that a stable and secure Coalition government will help the people of Macarthur. The first thing we'll do is get rid of a carbon tax. We will reduce regulation by $1 billion and cut back on government waste and mismanagement. We will introduce new economic policies that will ensure a stable and well-run economy. The Coalition has the experience and the discipline to return the budget to sustainable surpluses, reduce debt and provide real support to the Macarthur families to help them get ahead of the game. The Coalition government would give businesses in Macarthur the certainty they need to prosper. We will create stronger jobs growth by building a diverse, world-class 5-pillar economy and will generate 1 million new jobs over the next 5 years. My hope for the sake of my children and future grandchildren is this country will never again be in the financial mess that it is in now. The people of Australia and the people of Macarthur deserve better. They deserve a government that will reduce the cost of living by bringing the budget to sustainable surpluses and reducing their debt. They deserve a right to be excited about the future of our country and the future of their families. After 6 years of chaos, debt and spin, the people of Macarthur are desperately seeking stable and competent economic management. A Coalition government will build a strong, prosperous economy, a safe and secure Australia to restore hope, reward and opportunity that the people of Macarthur deserve.